Hi, everyone. It's Plastic EP here with Spencer Drate, and we've got a fantastic guest. We've got Martin Disney, and let me tell you, we welcome you to our new show, Interviews Down Under. How are you, Spencer, and how are you, Martin?
It's great to be here and start the series. We call it the Music Stars series, and we have a fantastic guest on, a historic. It goes in the history line on this show, what he has done. So I want to start by first thanking Carol Kay at Chaos Productions for emailing us the promo on this DVD CD that Martin was the director. It's the Bob Marley and the Wailers 1973 live sessions at Capitol, and we'll get into that. I want to say in my life how I was drawn to this, besides Carol's email, was the fact that in the past I had packaged for Chris Blackwell Island many reggae albums, and also for Tough Gong, which was Bob Marley's label, if you know that. And I want to show you some important things here, and then read a little bit from a book. And this is a very famous Bob Marley album, Legend. And two of the songs on this album are in the film that we'll talk about later. But it's an album everybody should know about in his life. And now I'll show you the package that we're going to talk about. This is comes out through Tough Gong, 609, Mercury, and Universal. It contains, if I can open it up, a DVD, CD. Got some graphics here, film footage, it looks like, from the film. And back cover. It's a very nice package. And that's being released, I believe, this month. In it is a booklet. And in that booklet are liner notes by John Missouri, who has authored some amazing reggae books. And I want to tell you, this is just a treat to go through the whole package, you know. And of course, the film is unbelievable, and the songs, right? But I want to get into, before we introduce Martin, I want to read something which I got from this book, Reggae, BBC book that went with this series on reggae. And the chapter, if I can open this up, is chapter 6, The Toughest of the Tough. And the reading goes, not shackled by rock steady early reggae love, song conventions, the Wailers were writing conscious lyrics from way back to their lives. Their brand of soul singing was exactly that, singing from the soul instead of merely singing soul songs. It forced them to push each other with a creative, it looks like friction, that can only exist in an unit as tight as they were, and produce the best from each of them. When they hit it right with the right song to get them going, Bob Marley's raw emotion, Bunny Livingston's upper register, and Peter Tosh tenor combined to offer up the awesome taste of that the Wailers were capable of as a group. So I wanted to just emphasize that. And now we'll introduce you to Martin Disney, the director of the film and the package I just showed. Hi, Martin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, guys. Good to see you.
So tell us about how you began with this, the concept, the lead into the whole package. What was the inspiration?
The lead-in goes back. The lead-in goes back 30 years. I was hauled in to analyze what was in the Bob Marley archive after Polygram had purchased Ireland. And the film Time Will Tell was being made, and I went through everything that they had, and that was over 1,000 reels of material, most of it repeat information. But what stood out was this couple of minutes of black and white film, and I emphasize film. It was 16 millimeter, and it didn't match anything else that was in the archive. And then I'd finished my tenure before I could go researching it. I found out in the meantime what it was, but I didn't see the archive again for another 5-6 years. When I was asked to, well, there'd been fundamentally no interest in anybody making anything about Bob in 5 or 6 years, which, looking back, is quite extraordinary because there's been a constant stream of things since then. But I was asked to be researcher on the film, on the documentary about the making of Catch a Fire in the classic albums series. And they needed footage from that period, and I remembered this piece, of course. And by then I'd found out who owned it, who was a man called Denny Cordell. Denny Cordell was a man ahead of his time, an extraordinary producer who, amongst other things, was responsible for Whiter Shade of Pale by Procol Harum. He had his own label in 1970, Shelter Records. He brought us Joe Cocker, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, J.J. Cale, Phoebe Snow, and he released a whole string of reggae singles in America, including Bob's first American release, which was the single Duppy Conqueror, misspelled Doppy Conquer. And that was probably also the first time he was billed as Bob Marley and the Wailers. And it turned out that Denny had acquired an outside broadcast truck with state-of-the-art cameras, and he had in fact filmed this session, which only occurred because the Wailers had been kicked off a tour with Sly and the Family Stone, who were a party band, and they were just a poor match. They did 4 or 5 gigs, I think, out of 17, and then they went down to the lobby to get the bus onto the next gig, and there was no bus. They were just unceremoniously dumped. They got across to Los Angeles, 380 or so miles away, and having been invited to do so by Denny Cordell, because Denny was a great early believer in Bob, and he put them into this studio. So the footage was perfect for the Catch a Fire documentary, same period. I went looking for, well, Denny unfortunately had died in 1995, so it's now 1998, and I tracked down his son Barney, who actually went on to become the producer of this film, had only heard about the footage, he'd never seen it. And so he commissioned me to go and find it. Eventually, we managed to acquire it from someone who, well, the masters were lost, very sadly.
Wow.
It happens. A certain record company lost about $500,000 not long ago in a fire. Other record companies doing things like buying recording studios would throw out masters, literally throw them into skips. It was quite extraordinary what happened. So yeah, the masters were lost. Fundamentally, managed to find copies. 15 minutes of it went into the classic albums Catch a Fire. And that was when it was first flagged by me as potentially a standalone release, because what we had were camera reels as well as a live mix. And when you strung it out in a line, it was 7 hours and 45 minutes long.
Wow.
So we had different angles and a live mix, not all of the different angles. So there were 3 attempts to turn it into a film in the next, so 98, over the next 20 years.
Wow.
And it never came to pass for various reasons. That's Hollywood. But eventually there was enough impetus behind it, and I began editing it in earnest in October last year. It took us getting on for 6 months to restore, to edit and restore and make it tell the little story that it does, because it's not like anything else that exists on Bob Marley. There are live shows, of course. There, things like the Rainbow Show. There are performances, but there is nothing like this shot in a recording studio. They can relax like they're in a rehearsal. They can make mistakes. It doesn't matter. But they have a small audience, so it's a bit like a club. And let's face it, all musicians like an audience,
right?
And the audience, you can tell in the first 5-6 minutes of the film, where we take the audience shots and edit them together with the band jiving around, interacting, the audience dancing, and whilst they listen to a playback tape, and then the songs, and without wishing to sound ostentatious, it was verging on for a religious experience to immerse ourselves in 7.5 million frames of footage. And tease out the very, very best of what was there. And my background is actually in various theatre and touring with rock and roll bands. So I've been involved in lots of shoots over the years, and lots of rehearsals and lots of things with bands. So I had a feeling for how it was that day, and could interpret. It's warts and all. It's got the mistakes. It's raw. It's impassioned. I mean, Bob is 28 years old.
Yeah.
He's in his absolute prime, and it was just an extraordinary experience, because it was before they became big. They're not in the least bit pretentious. I am told by somebody who knew them very well that they would have been really flattered to have been filmed. There's only one small piece of film on Bob that was made before. A lady called Esther Anderson was responsible for filming Bob for, there's about, 40 minutes or so of footage shot in 72 in Jamaica, black and white. But that's like home video. And then there's this, which is just, as I said, as I began, it isn't like anything else.
I wanted to say that what intrigued me is I've done a lot of reviews on music doc films for the years. The footage is a very high quality, and that is a big thing, because a lot of music doc films are not good quality, that, and they can't get it. But you must have done some work on it. Did you do work
it was digitally restored. It was put through many, many processes. There was, probably 2 months of work went into color correction, balancing it, one of the wonderful things about the job that they did on it was it was shot originally on what's known as a 2-inch videotape. We only had copies 2 or 3 generations removed from the original. But what should have been on there it was shot on NTSC, cruelly known as Never Twice the Same Color, NTSC 525, and 370 lines go across your screen.
Oh, wow. Wow.
All of and normally you can see those. They've gone.
Wow.
They've been removed.
That's incredible.
It really is, because I remember seeing the black and white film, and that was how I identified it straight away as being originated on video, despite the fact that it was black and white film.
To back up that, maybe it's better that someone said the film should be out now, because you've done this many years ago. Maybe you couldn't have done that with the film. You know,
absolutely correct. Yes, yeah, we would not have been able to achieve the level of restoration up until very recently.
I mean, when I look at the film, I am so drawn into it. You have no idea. Not because I work with Bob Marley Prodigal, which is part of my life as well as yours, but the film brings you in, and it's like you refuse to not look at it. You know, you're so drawn in with this film and the live session that I said, "Oh my God, I'm there. I'm really with these musicians. I'm in the room," and that is a great quality that this film brings to people.
Well, I like to think. Well, the film kind of made itself. You know, it just, as we were going through the footage, you know, bits said, you know, include me. It needs to be, I don't know, raw and well, for God's sake, thank you very much indeed, Spencer. I really appreciate it.
That's true.
Because that was our intention, was to make you feel like you were there, a fly on the wall.
Martin, I want to go one step further, right? With the Beatles, right, they looked for footage. They asked fans. They did a big campaign. And they wanted to do that film, The Beatles 8 Days a Week. And that's what they did. They searched until they found a piece of film. In your case, this is extraordinary, right? That you knew about the film. It was like you were the custodian of something that you found out about that you knew had to be made into a film. And you were the person, let's say, paying the biggest tribute you could pay to Bob Marley, right? By actually following this through and making sure that it became, let's say, something that's never been seen before and brought it to the world. These things don't happen every day. They're meant to be. And what you did was meant to be. I mean, it's something that everybody has to see. I mean, who doesn't love Bob Marley and the Wailers? I mean, even Paul McCartney was into reggae as soon as the reggae was happening.
Yeah.
Him and his wife, Linda, as well.
Yeah. I remember one of my earliest recollections of reggae being analysed musically was by Paul McCartney, talking about how it was a military beat, and then that was turned backwards, and I mean, well, again, thank you very much indeed. It has. I've lost the thread. I'm not used to so many compliments. It has its own life, and it really deserved to have its own life. And there'd been various offers, other people to do things with it, and we wouldn't let them. I'm afraid we did not trust people to do it justice. And I've been working with Barney Cordell for the last 23 years. And in fact, I've become agent to the film. And I've also become agent for other Bob Marley unique works and curated them too. And as a result, I mean, it's one of the things one of my standard phrases is that I've worked on almost every Bob Marley production in the last 30 years as a researcher, as a producer, and now as a director. And yeah, it actually feels terribly, terribly good to have done it. And there wasn't a single, because of course everything has to be approved by the Marleys, it has to be approved by the distributor. There was no one wanted to change a thing. There were no complaints about it, and it was, yeah, tacitly approved all the way around. And it'll be there. It'll be there long after I'm not.
Amazing.
It's historic. It's an historic film. People have never seen it. That makes it number one on my head. And the other thing is that Bob Marley was a mover and shaker. He was like John Lennon. He was like Bob
Oh
Dylan.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, he's up on the rank of there. So when we do a film like this, when you're doing a film like this, you're working on an artist that is in the top of the line in music history. And as far as my packaging for Tough Gum, and also for Mango, actually, the other reggae label now, I got to read the lyrics of Bob Marley's catalog. And it is so amazing, the lyrics.
Yeah.
And it brought me, it was like, Martin, it was like a message to me. It's like, I'm supposed to see this. I'm supposed to read this. And this is part of my life. And it's such an honor. And when like I said, when Carol Kay sent me this email, I mean, my heart and just soul, I can't even tell you, it was so moved. And to see the film in such a quality line and the way it's put together, I said, oh my God, this is it. You know what I mean? I want people to know that Carol Kay has an amazing PR firm called Chaos Productions. They handle the most famous in music and also filmmaking, music doc films, things like that. She's an amazing friend of mine. And like I said, when she sent me the PR on the film, no problem. And I told Plastic, we've got something really amazing here. And this is what it is.
It's amazing. But, Martin, I've got to ask you, with the finished product from 7 hours of film, right? How long does it run? The finished product that's out there?
It's 88 minutes.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's great.
88 minutes. We also did a 60-minute version for television that's just the songs. Doesn't include any of the naughty recreational footage. It does, in fact, it has no age warning in Germany, but this in Britain it got a 15 warning because of drug taking. It also says that there is swearing, that the F word is used, but it isn't at all. The nearest thing that comes is Peter Tosh singing the line "bullshit games" in the last song, which is "Get Up, Stand Up."
You're right, we're famous.
And it's what it is. It is. I think it is just staggering that it is going to be there for so long and that it took so long, but it's worth it.
Let me ask you about, now that we're talking, you brought it up, Get Up, Stand Up. Tell us about that song. It's so famous. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it had only been a couple of months since they'd written it, and they do the scat singing through it. So Peter Tosh is singing a different lyric to Bob. And so he uses the term the bullshit game. It is because though the footage has never been assembled and released, it was bootlegged when it went missing. Somebody managed to get hold of a copy and was selling it. So the collectors are familiar with it. The collectors, the diehard fans, have for years been talking about this being a conspiracy theory to deny us seeing this footage. We want it released.
Wow.
And they are pretty well agreed that out of 200 recordings known of Get Up, Stand Up, this is the best.
Wow.
Out of 200. They are incandescent. He is there totally.
Right.
They've for 10 years they've been working in Jamaica. 11 years. They've finally begun to break through. they've been out the road in America. They've had a bad time. They will have been, they had short dreads. They would have been stared at. They would have found racism thrown in their faces. They've been through a bad time, dumped off the Sly Stone tour, and then suddenly they're in this studio. They're surrounded by friends. They can relax, and Bob can get all his anger out.
Wow.
Does in that song. I used to know a producer called Martin Hannett, who produced Love Will Tear Us Apart, Factory Records, and he believed that people produce the best music when they're angry. And
That's great.
And it was said of him that he could take a bunch of musicians who'd been working together for 15 years and had never had an argument, and he could have them at each other's throats in 20 minutes. It's not quite, that's an aside, but I think it's always found it a charming story. But yeah, when the blood's up, and Bob was able to really put everything into that rendition.
Could you tell us about John Missouri? You brought up his name.
John,
wrote the liner notes.
very gladly. John Missouri is a journalist, a writer who, like me, grew up in Nottingham. I grew up somewhere outside, about 20 miles north, but I went to college in Nottingham, and he grew up in a particularly rundown area of the town of Nottingham. And his father was a German prisoner of war. So he was ostracized by his local community.
Wow.
And but he was adopted by the local West Indian community. And so he would go to the shebeens when he was, the house parties when he was 15, 16, 17, and grew up with a huge love of the culture and of the music. And he went on to become a journalist, and has now written several books on Marley, on Peter Tosh, ironically, his speciality was dance hall music.
Wow.
But he was asked to write a biography, and he was asked to be involved in the Wailers. He got involved with the Wailers, with Family Man, and this is after Bob died, and has been writing ever since. And so he's interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. He is an authority. He's a trusted, very reliable source. And
yeah, so bringing it back, I want everybody to know that John Missouri wrote the liner notes, which is in the booklet, and marvelous liner notes, Martin. Wonderful.
Well, it's been very interesting to see his quotes being finding their way into all the different sort of press releases and different versions and stuff. So people are paying attention to what he has to say. The closed door session was one of his catch lines.
How about the reviews on this package? So you've been getting some good reviews on this. Right?
Well, yeah, I have, apart from one review where there was some criticism of but basically what they were criticizing was something we couldn't do anything about because we just didn't have the footage. It didn't exist to be able to cut it the way this particular critic was saying we should have done it. But the reviews have been incredibly kind, really kind, and it's so many of them conclude that this is one for everybody's collection.
Right.
And they point out its uniqueness. As I said, it's not like anything else that was ever filmed of Marley.
That's right.
I
mean, you got to buy it for that reason, really. You got to.
Yes, really.
Yeah.
And my name.
Isn't it amazing that you find the greatest things once someone's gone? Like they've made their mark on the world, and people love them, and then you discover something that you don't know. You just don't understand.
Right.
As a member of the blind public and a fan of Bob Marley, I'm just saying, you can't wait to actually see it because, as you said, the way it's been described and what it is, unless you see it, you got no idea. And
Yes,
this is
right.
what
Yeah.
is the amazing part of it. And you being the custodian of it, and you overlooking everything and taking control and going through all this red tape to get it out to the public. I mean, isn't that the greatest reward you could ever
Yeah.
have?
Well, I'm hoping to see a quid out of it at some point in the next couple of years. But yeah, it's been a duty. I used to work for rock and roll bands, and we had this, this thing where we on tour, we could all be dying from colds, flu, lack of sleep, things going wrong. You never didn't do the gig. You knew how important this gig was to the kids that had been saving up to see this particular band. And I got a little bit of, there's kind of the same thing with this. I've wanted it out for years, and but as I said, for one reason or another, it didn't happen.
Like we're saying, Martin, that because of technology and where things are, it's so perfect timing to bring the film out. What it's going to add to that also is, like, Judith and I are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archival collection with our work, which is a great honor. But I can see this film has to go in archival collections. I mean, it just has to go in that area, for permanent collection somewhere, a number of ways, a number. There must be museums and things that could take this in and put it in their collection. That's how important it is.
Well, the thing is that the media, everybody has an archive in their phone now. So and because it's available on, it's going to be on Amazon, on Coda on Amazon, which is just available in America at the moment, which is a concert package that you pay for, a music service. But it's available on iTunes. It's going to be there forever.
Right.
DVD for the collectors, because there's bonus material on the DVD. That's going to be a perennial seller.
Is there, let me ask you a question. Is there a reggae museum of a sort of it? You know what I mean? Is there such a thing as a reggae museum? History of reggae,
in a reggae museum, not as far as I know. John may correct me. I know the nearest thing. Well, are you familiar with the work of Roger Steffens?
No, I'm sorry.
Roger Steffens has probably the world's greatest collection of reggae music, reggae memorabilia.
Oh my God!
It's 2 floors of his house in Silver Lake in this. And hopefully his collection can be kept together, because it is immense.
Wow!
There is room.
He has a museum in itself, Barton.
He does. He has a museum in his house.
And
you can book an appointment and go there.
That's great.
And that you will find the place dotted with photographs with visitors like Keith Richards, Leonardo DiCaprio. Roger was an extraordinary person. He survived 2 years in Vietnam, but never fired a shot. He went back for a second. Well, he could have come home a lot earlier, but he stayed on to organize food supplies for the Vietnamese people for about, I think he was there for another 8 months. And when he came back in 72, 73, he'd heard Bob. He was totally awestruck by him, and went to work for Island Records doing press and PR.
Wow!
And so he came to know Bob very well. Bob called him Ras Roger. Gave him the honorary title, and they were friends till the end. And so Roger has this museum.
I love this.
If you've got a blank check, you can have it soon.
Did the Marley family see this film? Has any of the Marley family and the
Well,
reaction that they had?
I should imagine so. I haven't had any direct contact with them.
Okay, okay.
But Sadella Marley was the executive producer, so I would hope so.
Yeah.
No, of course they have, and they have been very kind about it on their own social media.
So
So
that shows, you know what? That I'm glad you brought that up because that shows the purity of what you've done. If the Marley family, and you know this, I mean, it's a whole thing. If they have appreciated this film, how well it is, that means you've done an A+ job, Martin. You know that? That's acting. People act out. My partner Judith always told me people act out what they are, and they are acting out the greatness of this film. I picked that up in your conversation. You know what I mean? I really believe that.
well,
That's the way it goes.
it's such a buzz for me after all of these years. I mean, I haven't been sitting there. I've been doing other things in the meantime. I haven't sat there waiting for this to come along. But yeah, it is the most incredible honour to have been able to stay on to this level of custodianship and actually interpret it. But I must give credit to Tim Dollimore, the editor I worked with on this, who
Wow. Yeah, big
was
time.
wonderfully receptive and great to work with.
Well-
And I should tell you the story. When finally we got the green light, it would have been middle of October last year. I hurtled off to where Tim's studio is, which is 250 miles from where I live, with the intention of staying there for a month until it was done. Ha. I'm very glad I didn't, because it took longer than a month. But I was only there a few days when lockdown was called. The whole country stopped, and nothing was open, and I had to go back to where I live in Brighton, or was there then living in Brighton, and so we edited the whole thing using Zoom.
Wow.
And Tim's studio is incredibly well equipped, and it was a breeze. I wouldn't say it was a breeze. It was a joy, an absolute joy, and a really good way to work, because we could just fall together at any time of the day or night, whatever worked, and so we could work through the night, which, as you know, the studios, you can get your best in a studio in the early hours of the morning.
What I was going to say is that, if I could say this, I've interviewed a lot of filmmakers in my life, a lot of music doc films. Editing is so important. I mean, we're talking about any film that's ever done. The editing is so important, a major part of what this whole thing's about. And I'm glad you brought it up about the editor, because the editing on this film is really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it very smooth. It's very smooth. There's no breaks.
Well, I love editing, and there was a point in my life when I was 22, 23, and I was told I'd made a film. I mean, I put the whole thing together about something rather odd. You might not want to go there, but not bad. I did something very strange for a living for 2 years, and I made a film about it. And I was told I should become a film editor because the thing I'd been doing all collapsed. I didn't get to edit anything. I disappeared off working for rock and roll bands for the next 8 years, major ones in my 20s, and through the rest of my 20s, I came out of rock and roll when I was 30, 31, and soon after that managed to get my hands on cameras again and just start making my own little films, corporate things, and I made a couple of documentaries. And I was about to make a whole bunch more when British television stopped making documentaries because it was a political thing that I won't go into it, but they stopped making documentaries, and then the phone rang and I was asked if I would like to look at some film, and I said, yeah, Thursday night, any good? And the answer came, no, shitloads of film. That was the Bob Marley archive.
Wow.
So I got the first call in 1989 and got properly stuck into it in 1990.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the editing of it, Tim is Tim is a wonderful chap. He went to one of our more radical colleges in Britain called Dartington, which is now no longer with us. For the same reason, actually, that we stopped making documentaries, but I can't possibly mention Margaret Thatcher in this, can I? And keep it apolitical, boys. Tim went to this radical college where he shone, and after he left, 18 months after he left, they asked him to come back and run the department, and he did that for the next 9 years, and that embraced all forms of media and how to use it, how to make it, what it means, what it does. So he's gone on he set up his own company when the college closed, and he's had the place for the last 10 years. So and he's made some lovely films and made differences to people's lives as well.
Right,
so
that's great.
There was a Burning Man structure created in Northern Ireland. They have a big tradition of bonfires there, and they're sectarian. And this one was not sectarian, and people, fabulous structure, of course, because it's the Burning Man style. And people came along and wrote. They helped to build it, and both sides came together, Catholic and Protestant, and they built this structure together, and they invited more people to come and write notes about peace, and these were hung all over it. And they united over it and its burning, and Tim made a beautiful film about it.
Wow.
That is still out there somewhere on YouTube. I will, yeah.
That's marvelous.
Martin, I'm just going to say before we wrap up the show, it's been totally amazing, and I'm sure all Bob Marley fans and fans of the Wailers can't wait to get this film, get the music, get the packages. But let me say this, Martin, before we go. If there's any links you want to tell anyone out there, please do on the show if there are any links. And also, because the world's soccer crazy, you got to tell the story about the shirt that you're wearing.
Okay. Well, I will mention the link first of all. Well, my link, I have a new site there. It's gradually being populated. You'll find a little bit about the film and a little bit about another film that we're doing some things with for next year, and that film features Bob and the politicians on stage in Jamaica at the One Love Peace concert. But my website is Arcurate, ARCURATE, like accurate but archive, arcurate.net. And you can find out a bit about me, a bit about what else I've done, and about our plans for other Marley titles that will be going on there. Fundamentally, we aim to produce a list of everything audio-visual on Bob, whether we have examples of it or not, whether I'm an agent for it or not, but just to list everything that exists and try and populate that with the best quality footage that we can find.
Right. Also, Martin, tell us where people could buy this package.
Wow. Well, believe it or not, it's the first time I've seen that package.
It's got to be on Amazon, I would believe, right? I haven't seen the
CD and DVD combined. It's available on Amazon. It's available from all good record stores. The various Bob Marley merchandising sites operated by the record company. You can get it directly through them or on eBay for a variation in prices. But there's a collector's vinyl. There's the black vinyl. The DVD and the DVD CD package.
I'm glad to
Exactly.
see that it's on vinyl, Martin. We're bringing back vinyl. I'm involved with the making
Yeah,
vinyl again.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
involved with making vinyl.
I mean, the people, when I was telling people about it, sort of 10 years ago, 12 years ago, it's like, no, well, you've got to think about vinyl.
Yeah,
Go,
yeah.
what? Yeah, sure.
It's
sure.
back. It's back, Martin. It's back.
It's back now, Martin. Tell us about the soccer shirt, the
Oh,
Ajax shirt.
okay. This shirt is part of a range that were produced by Adidas in association with Tough Gong, and it was produced for the Dutch football team Ajax, one of the leading Dutch football teams. And in 2008, they were playing in Cardiff, and they wanted to keep the Dutch fans in to let the local fans, or whoever they were playing, they wanted to let the others out and keep the Dutch fans in. And so they played them some music, and they played Three Little Birds. Don't you worry about a thing. Every little thing gonna be all right. The whole crowd joined in. And ever since then, it's been their anthem.
Wow.
They sing it at every single game.
Unbelievable.
And this is their I think it's called their third away strip or something. And it went on sale, I don't know, about a month ago, and sold out in less than 36 hours. How many shirts they sold. I helped them on the video. I sorted them out some footage for Bob playing soccer, and on you can still find the video online on Instagram. It's on the Ajax site. If you go down, look down a bit. In 48 hours, it got 750,000 hits.
Oh my God!
Just on Instagram.
Unbelievable.
It's a little 3-minute promotional film, and it's absolutely darling. So this is Ajax.
That is totally amazing. Now I want to thank you for being on the show, and thank you, Spencer, as well. And Martin, keep up the great work that you're doing, and keep all these historical things happening, because it's just so fantastic. I'm blown away. I mean, this has got to be the greatest thing about Bob Marley that I've ever heard of. You agree, Spencer?
Oh, definitely. And thank you. Working with Plastic is a treat for me. He's a music maven. And I just can't. Bob Marley in my life, I mean, when it came to being a certain, like I say, a message in my design life, I said, oh my God. It's like I worked on some famous people in my life, but at that time, Martin or Plastic, I didn't know where they were going, like the Ramones, Talking Heads, Bon Jovi even. All of a sudden, Bob Marley comes to my life, and look at it. He's now one of the most iconic figures in the history.
Yeah. Can I just say this, which is that you hear Bob Marley's music in supermarkets, nightclubs, on the radio, but you also hear it wherever there is oppression.
Oh,
and
right.
His voice is meaningful to people who are fighting back. And he was the small axe, because he could chop down the big tree.
Right.
And we are in a state now where change from the top never comes. It comes from the bottom. And it's only people making a difference from the bottom that's going to work for us. And Bob has provided us with so many anthems to do that.
Well, from the beginning of the interview, like we were talking about, he was a mover and shaker. He was like John Lennon. He was like Bob Dylan.
Protest.
I'm
glad you mentioned John Lennon. Sorry to cut across you there, because I'm not being they're ours, the Beatles. The Beatles were the ones that came up with protest music. They were the ones. Well, you had Bob Dylan on one side, and you had the Beatles on the other. It was the first time musicians had stood up to say something overtly political to try and bring about change.
Yeah, and also
the two greatest voices, John Lennon and Bob Marley.
That's right, because John Lennon, when he went solo, he was really mover and shaker. I mean,
Yeah.
10 times more than the Beatles in some way
Yeah.
because of his activist. You know, he's an activist, you know that.
Yeah.
So it's like they're all together in this uh, camaraderie in music
Yeah.
history. And I worked on the Imagine album. I don't know if you know, I did the trade ads for the Imagine album. That's how I started for John Lennon and Apple Records. So they're brought into I have such a blessing to have these people in my life. Martin, the same for you, and Plastic. You know, I mean, all of us.
I just want to say one thing, John Lennon, give peace a chance. And I want to say, Martin, what else can we say? It's just been fantastic talking to you today.
Great
Everyone
talking to you
tune in.
too. Thank you very much for listening. I'm sorry if I've rambled on and
We love
it's
the
been our
ramble.
pleasure.
We love the ramble.
No, it's been great. Thanks,
Let's ramble
everybody, and
again
keep
one
watching Interviews Down Under. Thanks again.
thank you.
Go out and buy everything. Can't wait. Bye.
Yeah, consume.